Hello everyone. This is Jen with Jen's Den Art, and I am an acrylic artist and teacher, and I would like to welcome you to my page today. I have been very excited about this month's focus that we have going on, and in case you weren't aware, I'll explain to you what we are doing here. In my membership, which is Jen's Den VIP painting membership, in my membership, we have started the year of 2025 with a monthly focus so that we really dive deep into our art journey and we learn more and more about our paintings and how to make them better paintings, and we're really starting to focus on really important information that would help anyone in any art journey. It doesn't have to be acrylic painting. It could be oils. It could be watercolors. They all kind of have the same. Hi, Ellen. Hello, Kelly. All paintings have the same. I don't know what the word is for it. When you talk about your values and your composition and your color theory and things that I have learned over the last couple of years about painting that have really taken my paintings to another level. And I am sharing a lot of this information with my members as well. So in January, we focused on still life. In February, we focused on florals. And in March, which I'm really excited about, we are focusing on trees and landscapes and how to incorporate tree paintings in your landscape paintings and make them a focal point. So the one that we are painting now is our first painting of March, which we are working on right now, is called The Fishing Hole. And the focus of this painting is obviously a tree. And so we're breaking up all of the techniques on painting that tree. And the lesson so far that we've gotten through in this week's lesson is this. We're not finished with the painting yet, but when we're done, it's going to look like this. So my paintings usually take 2 days of lessons, 2 lessons to complete. And that's our first week in March. That's our first lesson that we're working on. And so what I like to do, since we're having this special focus here every month, is I like to come on and I like to share the information that we are working on. And I like to do a demo painting with you. So basically in the membership, you get 5 paintings a month, not 4. And I share this information with the public for a week, and then it gets archived into the membership. So what I want to share with you today is a couple of things. We are going to paint later on. We're going to paint this photo here with you. And I am going to be painting on an 8x10. Okay. And that is going to be our setup here in just a minute. But before I do that, I just want to talk to you about trees in general. So I'm going to make this a large screen, and we're just going to have a little lesson, and then we're actually going to paint. So today we're talking about trees in a landscape. Okay. And these are the things that we are going to make sure that we learn through this lesson. We are going to make sure we understand how to create a compelling composition, and we're going to look at specific compositions that will help you in your painting journey. Also, I want you to understand and utilize light and shadows to help you render depth in your paintings, which is what we're dealing with, which really comes into play when you're working in those leaves on the trees. To develop a strong sense of balance in your painting, which is all about composition. to refine your drawing skills and your color accuracy to create a visually engaging painting. And we're going to paint a landscape together. And I already showed you what it's going to look like. So a couple of tips about when you paint trees is make sure you focus on establishing the basic shape and structure first, then layer in details with varying shades of color. So you're going to see us doing that in this painting, and I'm also going to give you some helpful tips to help you create the depth and texture. We're going to do some dry brushing to help our bark. We're going to soften the edges of the foliage, which is all of your leaves. You don't want your leaves to look, it's really difficult to paint leaves actually. Okay, consider your light source. Make sure you deal with defining your highlights and your shadows, and make sure that you create the overall form of the tree before you just start painting the minute details. Okay, so my paintings do not get into minute details. I'm gonna show you today how we're gonna make sure that we stay away from getting into those minute details. These are just some examples of some tree paintings that I really love. Of course, the one on the left, I'm not sure who painted that, but it's just a beautiful, this is kind of, the painting on the left is what inspired me to paint the painting that we're painting in the membership. Although it's a different kind of tree, but it's got the same design. I don't know if you remember the one I showed you just a minute ago, and I'll go back to it. It's got the same design. It's got the same design set up. It's the side of a bank of a river, but I just changed the type of tree it is, and I made it a little bit more, I wanted like a bigger tree in the painting. So that's what we did with that one. And that's where I got my inspiration from. Here's a couple of paintings that are super popular from Vincent van Gogh and Claude Monet, which are dealing with trees. And we're going to talk about that composition that they used here. Notice Vincent van Gogh, the one in the middle, he really used a lot of complementary colors. You see that orange down there and the blue with it. Orange and blue are complementary colors to one another. So you can see how those colors really, really work well together. All right, so here's some tips and then we're going to get started. So first thing you want to do is you want to design your structure. Okay, sketch out a basic tree shape, including the trunk and the main branches, to establish the overall structure before adding details. Then worry about your colors. Start with a dark color and then start bringing in lighter shades as we go. Okay, different brush strokes, depending on what you want, you're going to use different brushes to get the effect that you want. Hello, Teresa and Catherine. So glad y'all are here today. And if you want broad leaves, then you're going to use a flat brush. If you want wispy leaves, then you're going to use a fan brush. If you want small leaves, then you're going to use small pointed brushes. So it depends on what you're going for. And I'm going to show y'all the techniques that I use to create my trees. Okay, then you're going to worry about your highlights and your shadows. Make sure you identify your light source and make sure you add your highlights with a lighter color on the side facing the light to create those shadows. And then the last thing you can do is you can bring in some negative space. So you can add what's called sky holes in your painting through the trees so that you can actually see the sky. And that's super fun when you do that. So there's a couple of different types of compositions that I'm actually going to share with you. Those are the names of some of them. That's not all of the compositions. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to actually draw out a couple of things for you to understand these compositions, because these are compositions that we have not talked about yet. The first one is called the steel yard. Okay, and the steel yard is basically, I'm going to draw this out for you. It's just basically, I'm going to put these in some little sketches. Okay, the steel yard is, this is just a depiction of what it represents. So you have a large item on one side and you have a small item on the other side of your painting. Okay, for example, if you were painting something with trees, then you would see maybe like a large tree on this side. I know I'm just drawing a very elementary tree. And then maybe you have something like this, and then you have a smaller tree over here on this side. That would be an example of a steel yard composition. Okay, we do these types of compositions all the time in my membership. We just don't call them a steel yard composition. Okay, so that's just an example of what you would consider. Okay, another one is the O, circular. It's either called an O composition or a circular composition. So the concept is basically this. It's like your eyes kind of go in a circle. All right, your eyes kind of go in a circle. So if you were painting a landscape painting, here's an example of a sketch of what you would do for a circular situation. It might be like a big pond in the middle. So you'd have like a pond, that would be the circular situation there. And then you might have like some mountains or something in the background like that. And then there's some trees out here on the sides. But your eyes pretty much, like maybe there's trees all right here. Your eyes pretty much kind of stay in that circular motion there. Okay, so that's another composition. These are upscale compositions. These are not compositions that we've discussed before. Okay, but one of the main compositions that we use in our paintings is the rule of thirds. And the rule of thirds is basically, if you have a sketch here, you break your, this applies for like photography and art. You break your canvas into thirds, horizontally and vertically. And all of these lines have a lot of information. So here, these two horizontal lines here, you usually want your horizon to be a third of the way up or a third of the way down. You don't normally want your horizon to be right in the middle. It's really not good for your eyes to have your horizon, especially if you're doing something that's straight across. Okay, also here you have your vertical thirds, okay, and that kind of depicts here when you look at this composition. We're basically following the rule of thirds in this steel yard composition right here. We don't have a tree right in the middle, which is, you can have one big tree right in the middle. That's just a different type of art. But because we're working on landscape here, this is something that you would do. So you want your large tree on one of the thirds and your smaller tree on another one of the thirds, okay? Also, the intersections of the thirds or the focal points, okay? Your intersections or your focal points. So for example, if you look at the painting that we are going to do in just a little bit, I'm going to bring this one back to, I want you to look at like where the sun is. Okay, the sun, this is actually not the best composition. This photo is not the best composition, but we're going to move that sun to be in one of those intersecting points to help give you that that composition, that perspective that'll really bring this. So I'm going to keep on referring back to this photo because there's a lot of reasons that I chose this photo. One is the rule of thirds. Another is the steel yard composition. Do you see the large tree on one side and a smaller tree on another side? Okay, so they're not the same exact size. You have one big one, you have one little one, but you have two that kind of, you know, work and balance its way through there. Okay. Another composition that we're going to talk about is, these are just a few of the compositions, y'all. So the S-curve. The S-curve composition. So basically, the S-curve composition is just like this. All right, y'all probably see a lot of S-curve sketches. Okay, so a sketch of an S-curve would be maybe a stream going through, and then maybe you have a mountain range back here, but you have a stream, and then you have some trees right here on the sides. You have maybe more trees, just little things happening. Maybe you even have a big tree right here. You know, so you're incorporating more than one composition in a painting. It just depends on how much you want to do. Okay. We've done one in my membership, and I'll show you a picture of it in just a little bit. We did a stream in the woods, and it was all trees on the sides. We had all kind of trees on the sides. It was like a forest, but then you could see a path in the woods, and we had that S-curve happening. So we hit a lot of different compositions in that. Okay. So those are just some of the compositions. Another one, I'm just going to go over a few of them with you because there's like 15 or 20 of them. A diagonal composition is basically what it says. It is a diagonal. Okay. An example of that would be if you have, let's say you have like right here is a really close mountain. Maybe there's some mountains that are really close up, but then as you go further away, the mountains kind of scale off. Okay, so that would be an example of maybe you have a lake down here, something like that. So that's an example of a diagonal composition that you may see. And one of the most popular compositions, and this is all dealing with trees, y'all, and landscapes, is the tunnel. This is the last one I'm going to go over with y'all. The tunnel composition is the one where you basically have a center, and then you have your trees going out like this. Okay, so you might have all your trees in a line like that. This also hits on perspective a lot. We talk about that in the membership as well. Perspective, because you have to make sure that the trees that are way far away are smaller and the trees that are up here are bigger. Okay, we are actually going to paint a painting in the month of March with this tunnel composition, and it's going to be a plantation home. It's called the Rosedown Plantation, and I'm going to see if I can find a picture of it. The Rosedown Plantation, you're going to have your plantation home way back here, and then you're going to have your oak trees coming in, the big oak trees all right here. And we are going to paint one of these with all of this beautiful. This is going to be beautiful. This is the one that I'm most excited about. We're going to paint that in March in our membership. So that is a tunnel composition. Okay. The one we're working on now has a few of those compositions all built in to one. And if you look at it, you could probably tell me what compositions you actually see in the painting that we are producing now. Let me see if I can get the light a little bit lighter here. There we go. That might work. Okay, so you can see the diagonal composition is being addressed. You could see well, I don't have two sides, but you could definitely see the, what do we call it? The steel yard composition. You've got something large on one side. And then I have a few little trees right here. Maybe you could put trees right here a little bit further. The rule of thirds, the tree is on one of the thirds here. Okay, so we have some compositions in this painting right here that we're working on. So far on day one, we were able to block in the dark colors. Okay, we blocked in all of the darker colors. And tonight, when we come back on in our lesson, we're going to start bringing in the medium and the light tones. And we're going to start bringing in more of the leaves. And we're going to make the highlights on the tree. And of course, it's going to end up looking a lot like this one right here. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing tonight in our membership. And that, my friends, is the lesson that I wanted to show you all today. So what I'm going to do right now, if I can get this to work for me, let's see, I'm going to remove this. I'm going to put this as my, oh, I need to add this to the stage. Yes, there we go. Okay, so here is my painting area. There is my reference photo, but I'm not going to use the reference photo as is. Because I have learned a little bit or a lot about composition, I am going to start by sketching. Okay, I'll show you. Before I started painting that tree painting, I sketched. Okay, so I'm going to start with a sketch. I'm going to take my sketch pad, and this is an 8x10 canvas, and we're going to be painting vertical instead of horizontal. So I'm going to make a sketch that's, instead of 8x10, I'm going to cut it in half. So instead of 8x10, I'm going to make it 4x5. I just basically took half of 8 and half of 10, and I'm going to make it 4x5. So I could go 4. Nope, I would go 5 this way because I'm working vertical. This is a large sketch, actually. And let's move it over because I'm going to show you how sketches really help you. Now, we provide templates for everyone who wants a template. We provide templates in our membership, but I also show you how to draw. So I'm going to make 2 sketch templates right here for a 4x5. I'm going to make 2 because I'm going to play around with my composition. I'm just making this 4 inches by 5 inches. And I'm going to use my pencil. And I'm looking at the actual photograph. And I really like the diagonal composition that's occurring here. So I do want to make sure that I include that diagonal composition and have that little hill there. Okay, I do like this tree. This is a very difficult tree to paint because it has so many branches. So I don't know, we might keep it. We might make it a little less complicated. Just for time purposes, we might make the tree a little less complicated. I'm also going to make the tree be a little heavier than it is. I'm just sketching. That's all I'm doing is sketching. Okay. I am going to move the sun. I'm going to move the sun to kind of be about right here. Okay, so that's going to be my sun coming through. On this side, I like this extra landscape area that comes across. I love the tree, the weeds, I guess, that the sun's hitting. I love that. That's a really important component. I'm going to bring this tree right here. I'm going to bring it down just a little bit. But I'm not going to go even. I don't want to have the same height. Okay. I'm going to make this tree. This is a different kind of tree. So we're going to have fun painting this tree. I might make it more into like a fir tree, like an evergreen tree, something like this. All right. This is pretty empty though in the middle. So there's one sketch. It's okay. I'm not quite sure I love it, but I'm going to try another sketch. I'm going to try. I could erase and start over, or I'm going to try to move things around just a little bit. And I'm going to move this tree just a little bit over. I feel like I went a little bit too far. The middle is empty. See how this middle is empty? And it's kind of like, what am I going to do there? All right, so this tree is going to come here. I just moved it over a little bit. I'm just sketching really fast. Nothing particular. I'm going to move the sun. I'm going to move the sun over on this side. Maybe just a little bit over. Let's go about right here. And I'm going to make this tree come down about like that. Okay, so which one do you like better? You can already see the difference in the two. This one's way too spread out. Everything's just way too towards the edges, and this one's a lot better. So that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to play around. I just wanted to see like where exactly do I want to put things. I even like the little bit of curvature that I have on the heel here. Okay, so I'm going to take this sketch, which I just created, and I'm going to see if y'all can, yeah, y'all can still see it. And I'm going to sketch it onto my, my canvas. And I'm going to use a paintbrush. I'm going to use a paintbrush. Yes. Hi, Donna. Hi, Connie and Dewey. Hello, everyone. Hi, Dawn and Heidi. Looking forward to this lesson. Yay. I'm so glad y'all are here watching it. I'm going to take some burnt umber, if I can get the top off. I have this little thing here that really helps me. Get the tops off of my paints. There we go. I'm going to take some burnt umber. And I'm going to use a little bit of water. And I'm going to start sketching on my canvas. So I'm going to transfer this sketch onto my 8x10 canvas. Trying to get enough room here for me. And the first thing I notice is where I started the little beginning of the hill is not in the center. It's a little bit below the center. Okay, my tree, let's go with this piece too. This is kind of the horizontal landscape there. My tree is going to be pretty decent right here. Sketching really, really loose. I'm just going to kind of make the design of where the tree is going to go. I'm not going to sketch out all of the branches. Okay. My sun is going to go about here. And then my other tree, I'm going to make it come down further. My other tree, I don't know what kind of tree this is going to be. It might be an evergreen. It might be a bush, you know, like a bushy tree. We'll just kind of use this as an inspiration. Okay, this photo is just an inspiration. I love the colors in it. I love the whole aspect of. Now I feel like this is a little high. I feel like this is a little high, so I'm going to come down just a little bit more and bring my tree down right there. Okay, so that's the beginning of my painting. I'm going to put this aside, and now I'm going to start. I have to let this dry. I'm going to start with, I like to put a wash on my painting first. So I'm going to dry this up. And this tool where did it go? This thing, I have to look it up. It is a, I don't know. It's from Golden. Yeah, it helps you open your paints. Now, normally I would let this dry a little bit more, but for timing purposes, because we're live, I'm gonna move on. I like to use Golden Fluid Acrylics, which is called Azo Gold, as my wash. I always use a wash. Now I do. I use a wash almost every time before I start a painting. Now, you know, we've all come from different stages in our painting journey, and I am in my 9th year of painting where I have been painting at least once or twice every single week. So 9 years of painting every single week. I still don't paint enough, but I've learned a lot over the 9 years. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is I'm just taking this Azo Gold with some water, and sometimes I paint 3 or 4 times a week, but most of the time it's one to 2 times a week. Once, well, no, probably more than that, because once with my membership every week, once for the practice painting before the membership painting. So I usually have 2 paintings of everything. And then when I'm painting for myself, like the crawfish painting that you saw in the background, sometimes I just have fun and I just paint something just because I want to paint it. So I paint 2 to 3 times every week. Sometimes more, depends on what's going on. So you do the math. That's a lot of paintings over the last 9 years. All right, you can do the size as well. Again, because of time constraints, I'm just going to worry about the center. And you see how you can still see the burnt umber in here. Now I'm going to go a little bit further with my burnt umber. Now that I put this wash on, I'm going to take my burnt umber, and I just pulled any paintbrush. I'm actually using a filbert brush right now, but it doesn't matter what kind of paintbrush you use. I'm identifying the darkest darks, and I'm looking at my photo. And when I'm looking at my photo, my reference photo, I am noticing that there are really dark layers back here. And that's going to be a part of my painting. I know I didn't draw it in, but it is going to be a part of my painting. So I'm going to bring those in right here. And I'm using my burnt umber and my burnt sienna to do all of this. I'm also going to identify that this tree is going to be rather dark. I'm not going to make it as dark as the reference photo because it's just too dark. I mean, I would just be adding black if I wanted it that dark, and I don't want it that dark. So I'm going to add a little more life to my trees, basically. This tree over here is super dark, so I'm going to bring that in as well so that you can see your darkest darks. I'm working wet on wet. A little bit of fun in my tree. Maybe some of the branches come down this way. Okay, so this is still super, super wet. I'm going to go ahead and dry it. And that kind of gives me an idea of where my darkest darks are going to be. And now I'm going to go a little bit lighter with my colors. And I've noticed that here, let me use a different paintbrush. I'm going to add more water. And notice that here is going to be You'll see how dark all of this is in here. This is going to be a medium tone in here. I'm going to keep this really, really loose, okay? But you can already see that I'm creating a painting without even putting any colors other than brown on the canvas. I'm just using different tones of brown. So there's so many different, ways that you can get all of those values, and you can already see the depth. The depth of a painting does not come from the colors that you use. The depth of the painting comes from how light or dark the colors are that you use. So I could paint this whole painting in black and white if I want to, and I can still see the depth that I'm trying to create. I can still see that it is a landscape painting with a small tree and a large tree and sun in the back and all that stuff, even if I just use these two colors that I'm using right now. Okay, so that's going to be the beginning of my painting. I'm going to dry this off. And now we're going to decide what colors we actually want to incorporate into this painting. I am not going to use a lot of colors at all. You know that the only colors that you really need are blue, red, and yellow, and then black and white. And then black, you really don't even need black, okay? I know that's kind of crazy, but you really don't even need to use black. You can use all of the other colors that you have, and so you can make a really dark color that's almost black without even using black. Okay, so that is about good there. It already looks awesome. Thank you, Donna. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to decide on my colors. My colors for the sky, I'm going to use an ultramarine blue. Y'all all know I love ultramarine blue. I'm going to use an ultramarine blue. I'm going to use quinacridone red. These are the colors I use for my my 6x6 challenges. Ultramarine blue, quinacridone red, cadmium yellow. It could be cadmium yellow light or cadmium yellow medium. Doesn't matter. Just a yellow, a really bright yellow. I'm going to go for my white, if I can find it. It's somewhere around here. I'm almost out of this big jar. And I'm going to keep my burnt sienna available because burnt sienna is going to be a beautiful color for this painting. Burnt sienna is a dark orange. Okay, now I can make orange with the ultramarine blue and the yellow, but I'm also going to keep my burnt sienna up here. It's beautiful color. I love it. I love it. All right, so let's go with a kind of a large flat that's a little bit soft. The bristles are a little bit soft because I'm going to be working with putting my background, my sky in. Okay, there's a beautiful calm sky back there. So I'm going to wet the paintbrush. I'm going to take my ultramarine blue and my white, and more white than ultramarine blue. I'm going to mix those together. And basically going to bring in my sky color. Now, whenever you're creating a sky, normally the top of your sky is darker and it gets lighter as you get down to the horizon. Okay, so we're gonna try to get that in there, and I'm going to work around my tree just a little bit, not a lot. So I'm going to focus on the top of the sky is going to be just a little bit darker. I have some water on my paintbrush. That's why it's moving really easy right now. I'm just going to work around my tree a little bit, and I'm going to add more white as I go down. Now, the type of paint you use is going to determine your paint coverage. I am using ultramarine blue and titanium white that are both professional grade paints. So you notice that they're covering really well on top of this azo gold, this burnt sienna azo gold combination. Because it's a professional grade paint, it's got a really strong pigment, and it makes your painting experience much better than using craft paints. But you can paint this with craft paints as well. You just might not have the experience and the what's the word? You may not feel as accomplished in your painting if you use craft paints, because you're not going to have as good of a product at the end. But I definitely believe that if you're just starting out in painting, like I did when I started, start with craft paints. That's what I did. That's all I had was craft paints. Now I do not have craft paints. I don't own them because I found that it's better to use higher grade paints to get what you're looking for. If you want to paint for fine art purposes, that is. So it's totally up to you on what you want to do. But I'm going to teach you all. In our membership, we go in like some of the tutorials, because I've been doing this for over 5 years. Some of the tutorials are with craft paints, and they are simple, whimsical tutorials for beginners. And then some of them are higher level paintings. So you have a variety. There's over 450 painting tutorials in the membership. So you have a variety of all different levels from beginners to advanced in there. So, because we've grown over the 5 years, we've learned how to do more. We've learned more about, all of the different varieties of techniques you can use. And we're still learning today. We are still learning today. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I am coming into the foreground right here, and I'm making a purple with my ultramarine blue and my quinacridone red, because I don't know if you can see it or not, there's lots of purple in the front. Not really much purple as much as there is blue, but I'm going to start with purple, and I'm going to work my way a little bit more into the blue. Lots of white. And I'm not necessarily trying to match the color on the painting. I'm just trying to. Now this color right here is way too bright. Okay, so I need to go with a darker value. It's way too close to the sky color. And if you notice, it should not be quite that. There we go. That's more of what I want. It should not be quite that bright. So I'm going to use this color here. And this needs to be darker. This color right here is a darker value than what's right here. Okay, this color is actually kind of like a yellowy color. So I'm going to bring this in. Now we're going to keep this painting loose. We're not adding a lot of detail. We're going to keep it loose because we're on time crunch here. Look how pretty that is already. Isn't that pretty? Look at that. Look how that just came alive. Isn't that crazy? Love how you can do this. Okay, let me get a better close-up view of the reference there. Okay, perfect. So I am going to start, while this is wet, I'm going to start using a few different values of this bluish purple. And I'm going to bring in a little bit more blue and a little bit more white. And I'm still using a large flat brush. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start making some of those little hills in here. This is still wet. just going to start getting a little bit more movement. Okay, I'm going to let this dry. And I noticed something that I'm not doing. I'm not making it look like it's going downhill. So let's kind of bring some of those heels kind of slanted this way. Okay, so now I have more heels than I wanted. So I'm going to go back and add a little bit more of that darker color in there. Very, very loose. Don't stress over it. Okay, let's go a little bit darker. A little bit darker right on the base. I'm adding in like a third value. Lots of paint on my paintbrush. Kind of like a little shadowy area in some areas. Okay, and then right here, you see that shadow coming through? I'm gonna bring that shadow out where this tree is. All right, love it. Okay, I'm gonna clean that off. Put that aside. Let that dry before we do anything else. Now I'm gonna go into, I'm gonna use another flat brush. I like flat brushes. I'm sure you could tell that by now. Okay, let me make sure y'all can still see me. Yep. Okay. I'm gonna use just a flat brush. I'm gonna start bringing my tree to life. Okay, so I'm gonna use burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. Burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. The reason why I'm using those two colors together is because your burnt sienna is a dark orange, and of course blue and orange are opposites on the color wheel. And so when you mix two opposites on the color wheel, you get a really dark kind of grayish, brownish color, depending on how much orange and how much blue you use. So because burnt sienna is so orange, right now it's a little bit too green. It's coming out a little bit too green. So I'm going to put more orange in it, and it's going to bring it more towards the brown. Now this is going to be a super loose painting, y'all. Still green. Need to get a little bit more orange. Okay, that's better. It's coming out like a dark brown now. I'm just going to start shaping out my tree here. Let's go with that trunk. Let's go a little bit thicker. All right, I like it. I'm going to just start making use a little bit of my burnt umber as well. Just making a few branches. A lot of this is going to be covered up, so I'm not really worried about every single detail here. Okay, and let's continue that back here as well. I've got some different shades that I'm going to bring in. I'm going to start with this color back here. Same color I was using on the tree. All right, perfect. And let's bring a little bit of that in here as well. You see we've got some, it's not dry, but we've got some grasses and stuff that could have some little dark browns in them. It's not as dry as I want it to be. Let's bring this tree down just a little bit more. All right, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to clean that off. That's just the beginning of our tree. And I'm going to make the background have a little bit of that. You know what? I'm going to bring this, sun out. It's a lot higher than in the photo, but I'm going to go ahead and establish its identity really quick. And I'm just using a flat brush to make a round white sun there. And I'm going to use that same flat brush, and I'm going to start bringing in some of that sky that's like, I don't know if it's like dawn or daylight or something. So I'm mixing up some quinacridone red and yellow. And I'm making an orange. And I'm making my paintbrush almost like dry brush, okay? And I know I'm going in opposite layers than what most people would do, but I'm just giving you different options for creating paintings. They don't all have to be done in the same way. So I'm adding a little bit of white to my color just to make it a little more opaque. And this is just going to act as kind of like clouds in a sense. Perfect. Now I'm going to go over the white if it is dry. I'm going to go over the white with some white and yellow. I'm going to make a super bright. So always put down, whenever you're doing one of these bright moons or suns or whatever it is, always put down a coat of white first. And then get your bright yellow to come in afterwards. Okay, I'm going to let that dry first before I do anything else on there. And now I'm going to I'm skipping around a lot because I have to let things dry. I'm going to make a green with ultramarine blue and yellow. And I'm going to add some burnt sienna to it to make it a dark green, okay? And I'm going to come in with this tree right here with a little bit of green. It's got a little bit too much green in it, but I'm going to tone it down in just a minute. A little bit more burnt sienna. I'm going to bring in just a tad of green in all of this. Make kind of like a fir tree. It comes on top here. Okay, so these two values are too close to one another. They're almost exactly alike. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the tree right here have a little more highlights. Let's get a little more of that burnt sienna. And I'm going to bring that tree forward. A little bit too much. Okay, now you can see that that tree is a part of the painting and it's not buried away in the background. And I'm just going to touch on I'm going to make a few little highlights back here. And now let's go into our tree, this tree. I'm going to go back, clean my paintbrush off. And I'm going to grab some white into the same mixture, the burnt sienna and the ultramarine blue, but now I'm just going to use some white in it. And I'm going to make it more of like a lighter grayish brown. Just a little bit lighter. And I'm going to start bringing in, almost like dry brushing. I'm going to start bringing in some highlights on the tree. Now remember, the sun is over here, so your highlights you want that to show that the highlights on the tree are coming in this way. And I'm going to add just a teeny bit. I'm going to have to use a different paintbrush. Just a teeny bit of that same color, a little bit darker. And I'm going to bring in a little bit darker, not quite dark enough. I'm using a really soft bristle brush because I want some softening in here. So I'm just kind of bringing in kind of like maybe some dead leaves on some of these ends here. I want to go a little bit darker. Some of you might want to use a fan brush. I'm not a fan of a fan brush, but if you wanted to use a fan brush to do this, you can most definitely do that. I want a little more softness in this tree, so I'm moving my paintbrush around to make it a little softer. And I'm going to use some yellow and white. And I'm going to use almost like a dry brush consistency. And I'm going to come back in, and that's going to give it a little bit of a glow for the effect of the sun hitting it in certain areas. Especially on this side. Want that glow to come through. Okay, so we're going to continue with this glow right here in this area. I'm going to first put a little bit of grass. Okay, so I'm going to just keep it really loose. I want it to be kind of dark. Just going to come in with a flat brush. Just going to bring in some grass. A little bit darker. Get those dark shades in there. I'm out of burnt sienna, so give me just a minute. I'll use this. No, let me use this one. Burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. I'm going to make that again. I'm going to come in here. A little bit more, and then we're going to make it pop. Let's see, might have just a teeny bit of grass coming in over here, just to kind of soften the edges. Let's go back and add a little bit of darkness in here. Trying to make those colors, the contrast, work well. So I felt like my tree was I didn't have enough contrasting colors in it. So I went a little bit darker with my bark, because I kind of covered up some of my bark when I started going lighter. And I want to bring that back out, like on some of the branches. So that's why I decided to go back in. And then I feel like I need to soften this up just a tad. There we go. All right, clean that off. And then I'm going to make that beautiful, it's kind of like an orange, bright orange color. That's going to be like the highlights, like the sunlight coming in. So I'm going to use quinacridone red, cadmium yellow, and a little bit, you know what, quinacridone red and cadmium yellow are the main components. I'm going to start with that and see what happens. I don't want to use white too much because it kind of starts making like a peach, and I don't want a peach color. I want a bright, vibrant, kind of like an orange color on top. Let me grab, your yellow needs to be opaque, and I think that's what I'm doing wrong. My yellow is transparent. I need an opaque yellow that's going to give me full coverage. And it's going to, yeah, that's what I need. Now you can use a liner brush if you want to, but look at the difference now that I use an opaque yellow. My yellow is opaque, so it's giving me the coverage where it's actually, I'm putting paint on top. Let me see if y'all can see this okay. I'm putting paint on top of the other paint that's there rather than it being transparent and just covering a little bit of it. Like I was putting the orange up here and it wasn't even showing because my yellow was transparent. So those are things that you learn as you paint a lot. Okay, so you see how that is starting to make the glow from the sun come in. So you can see that there. And then I'm going to do that here. I'm using a flat brush to do this, and I'm just using the side of it, but you can grab a liner brush. Making that tree have that glow. And I'm also going to make this side of the tree because the sun or the moon or whatever it is coming in on this side. I'm going to give it a little bit of glow there. Let me go a little bit lighter with a little bit more yellow and less red. I'm trying to get that color. A little bit of white. See that glow coming in now? That's what I want. I'm going to bring some of that glow into my trees. Okay, much, much better. All right, and then a couple of little things. let's make that sun glow a little more. So I'm going to put another layer right here. It's a little bit too yellow, but I'll go back over it with more white. Clean that off. And now I'm going to make the ground glow as well. And so the way that I'm going to make the ground glow is I'm going to do two things. I'm going to put one more layer of blue, ultramarine blue and white in a few areas. Let's go a little bit more with some white, ultramarine blue and white. Make that ground have a little more glow. And then I'm going to take a teeny bit of the orange. I'm going to make the orange color, which is the quinacridone red and yellow. A little bit more white in there. And that's close to being done for this demo. And that, my friends, are two different trees and lots of different techniques that we used here to create a beautiful landscape painting with light, with the light shining through. And I just love painting paintings like this that have that light shining through. So what do y'all think? I think it hit the spot and it pretty much got what we were looking for there. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to see if I can bring myself back in the camera as well. Yeah, there we go. So thank you all for being here. Please follow my page. I usually like to come on at least once a month and share some techniques with all of you. And make sure you join my my email list. Our membership is not open at the moment, but I will share before I get off of the live. I'm going to go find my my wait list email. If I can find it, there it is. If you want to get on the wait list, trying to get it to come up. There we go. There we go. If you want to get on the wait list and find out when we open again, then join my email list because there's special surprises coming. Look how pretty that is. There's special surprises coming from, okay, so I need to talk to y'all about something. This happens to me all the time, and it'll happen to you too. I do not like that this tree, the bottom of this tree, and the bottom of this tree are almost the same. So that's not a good composition. I started doing a good composition and then I added too much to it. So how would I fix that? I would probably bring this tree down even further, to about right here, and fix that. I hope y'all can see what I'm talking about. These two trees they almost look like they're on the same plane, and I don't want them to be like that. So you always find little mistakes in your paintings as you go, although it's still a beautiful painting and it came out fine. But please follow me, follow my page. And if you would like to come on the inside in my membership, make sure you join my email list, because in there you get access into the membership. You get bonuses if you are on my email list, and you get invited to the membership. So come on in and join us. We would love for you to be a part. And I just put the link in the comments. And thank y'all all so much for being here today. I will see y'all next time. Bye.